Okay, so now I'm going to show you a technique called inpainting, which is a more specific way of replacing specific parts of images or even restoring old photographs. Okay, so let's open up a default image creation workflow. So workflow browse, and then this one, basics, image generation. Okay, so we've seen this many times now. We can run it and it works. And it produces an image. I'm just going to move that down here for afterwards and just move it a bit more. Very similar to the image-to-image video, we're going to be playing with the latent image. So let's remove that. And actually we can just delete that entirely. Let's create a new image that we're going to start from. So from my documentation on the Inpainting page, go down, we can start with something like that. So copy that. So right click, copy image into ComfyUI, Control V to paste, and it's a load image. Now, if you remember, we have to convert that to a latent image. So you can drag that out. And here is one called VAE encode for Inpaint. So click that. Now, the process of inpainting means involving a mask. So we can drag mask into there. Now, we don't have a mask on this photograph yet, but we can make one. If you're familiar with Photoshop, the mask is like having an alpha channel where the alpha value is 0. So in ComfyUI, in this load image node here, if you right click the image, there's an option, open in mask editor down the bottom there. So click that. And we've now got a sort of a mini Photoshop where we can change the photograph. Up here, I've got a paintbrush, and maybe you can see there's a little circle on there. I'm going to make that circle a little larger using the thickness option on the right here. Okay, so that circle is too big. Let's go down to a bit smaller. Okay, and now if I just click and just draw around the car like that, even though it's black, it's actually creating a mask where the alpha value for all of this area is 1 and the alpha value for all of this area is 0. Okay, so then go save at the top, and now that's our base image, and it also has a mask, and that's the mask there. So there's the RGB image and the alpha mask. So if you were using Photoshop, you can do things in the same way. Just a quick example. Okay, so quickly in Photoshop, I have a layer and another layer which is just completely empty. And if I was to use the eraser, I could do something similar. Make sure that's selected. And then that's how you would do it in Photoshop. And then you could save that using the options, save it as a PNG 24 with transparency. And you could use that as your base image back in ComfyUI. But I've already done it using the option in ComfyUI. Let's open in Mask Editor there. Okay, so that's good enough. Now let's plug latent into latent image. Now let's change the prompt to be something like a 4-wheel drive. Okay, so I'm wanting to replace this particular area with a 4-wheel drive. Now note that I'm right now using the version 1.5 of Stable Diffusion, and this will work, but it won't produce a particularly good job because I want it to generate based on the same image, but just going to show you what it looks like anyway. So run. Okay, I forgot to do the VAE input there. Okay, so VAE to VAE. Okay, let's do that again. Run. Okay, so it's running away, doing that. Okay, so it's produced something kind of okay. It's not really a 4-wheel drive, but we can produce more of those again. Let's produce another one. Okay, so it's not so bad actually. So what I'm just doing, I'm just showing you that you can use the version 1.5 pruned EMA only to do that. Now let's just try something else just so that we get some kind of problem. A motorbike. Run. Okay. You can sort of see that there's something a little bit wrong with that. Now, there's a specific model that we can use that is much better for inpainting, and that is on my documentation, the 512 Inpainting EMA Safe Tensor. So we can download that. Okay, from Hugging Face here. There is a download option there. Okay, so it's downloading now. It's about 5 gigabytes. I'm just going to fast forward the video until this is finished. Okay, so that download is finished. It's in my downloads folder. I'm just going to copy that. So Control X, and I'm going to put that in my checkpoints folder there. Okay, so I've got 2 checkpoints now. And if I go back into ComfyUI, edit, refresh, and now I can select that as an option in the load checkpoint. And now if I generate a new image, run, so we can see it happen. Okay, that is a little better. Still a bit of a line there. In the next section, I'll show you how you can even improve things like that. But that's that's a bit better. The Inpainting model will look at the existing image as well and try to match the style and technique. So if you have an image that has a particular art style like Picasso, Matisse, Kandinsky, the filled in area of the mask will also have that same style. So it's a much better model for that particular purpose. Now, it's also trained on 512 by 512 images. So if you're using your own images, make sure they're 512 by 512, but you can experiment with 768 and even more, but the generation will be much slower and there's a much greater chance of getting corruption. But anyway, that's pretty good. Let's try out a few other prompts. A Porsche. Okay, so I've used the word a Porsche there. Run. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, we've got a Porsche there. Perhaps I could just improve on that by changing this grow mask. Just make that a bit bigger and run. Okay, there we go. That looks a bit better actually. So the grow mask softens the areas. So you can experiment with that. You can even try a 0. Let's try that. Generating a new one. Yeah, it sort of looks a bit rough around the edges now. So grow mask softens the areas or the edges. Run. Okay, brilliant. That looks pretty good. Now for another use case of this is image restoration. So on my documentation, I've got an old photograph here that's obviously degraded over the years. So if you just copy that, so copy image, go into this load image, press Ctrl V to paste. There we go, we can see it's there. If we use the mask editor again, so mask editor, or you could use Photoshop if you prefer, let's just try and repair some of this. So I don't want these white edges, so I should be able to just get rid of those pretty much completely. Get rid of some of this really bad stuff down the bottom. Going to get rid of all of that. It's quite bad there. I'm not going to use the thick brush for that. I'm going to use a smaller thickness and just be a little bit more careful around where the creases are. I think this whole section can actually be done. So let's just go and just do the whole section. There, let's go back down. There's some around there I think needs tidying. That over there, do with some tidying. Okay, let's do something even a bit smaller. Let's get rid of some of these dots. There's a dot there. There's a dot. I mean, I don't know if that's a pimple or not. Anyway, there's a few little dots around here that could be taken away or improved on. There's a dot there, a dot there, and there. And there's some around there as well. Okay, let's see whether we can get a good result from that. So save that. For the prompt, a photograph of a man. Okay, let's see how that comes out. Using the same settings here. Just put that down a little bit and come back to that afterwards. So I'm just using about 9. Well, that first attempt is actually not so bad. Okay, it's a little bit there and there. Now, you can run that a few times to get something that you want, but I'm pretty happy with that so far. So I can still improve it. So instead of just running through that and maybe adjusting the mask a little bit, I'm just going to right click, copy that, go into here and press Ctrl V and start from this new image. So let's create a mask on this new image. So open in mask editor. Let's just say that doesn't look very good there. Or perhaps that's too much. I just press Ctrl Z then to cancel that. I'm going to make that a bit smaller. That's good. There's still a little bit of degradation around here and there. There's a little bit there. A little bit on the forehead and face there. I'll see if I can maybe get rid of that. Right, there's a little bit up there. Add a bit of thickness. Too much. Okay, if I just zoom in and out like that. Maybe I can get a better color there. I'm too scared to do too much. I don't want to make it worse. All right. And maybe a little bit on the shoulder there. All right, let's give that a try. So save. And now let it run and see if that's even better. All right, I think you get the idea. You can keep going on that or press Ctrl Z a few times. Go backwards. So if I was to press Ctrl Z, go back to that. Ctrl Z again, I'm back there. Or Ctrl Y to go back to where I was left off. Anyway, so image restoration using Inpainting, or even just changing the contents of images. Excellent.